we have DAP The Contract. What's up, brother?
How you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm great. Happy to be here.
Likewise, man. Likewise. We're grateful that you are here. Tell the people who you are.
First and foremost, I'm Nigerian. I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm a classical pianist originally, and similar to Section 2, actually, fell in love with producing first in high school. And then after a couple of years, fell in love with writing and started making my own music, and rapping and singing and all of that kind of came together. What else is important? I'm also an entertainment lawyer, which is a fundamental part of my identity. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Hell yeah. You mentioned that you played piano, classically trained. How did you come to fall in love with hip hop?
Again, similar to Section 2. Can we just make some more noise for Section 2 again? I'm a fan of you, man. Not just your performance was amazing, but your interview too. Like everything you said, I identify with a lot of the things you spoke about. But in a similar way, I think I speak about it on one of my songs. Actually, it's called "Heroes and Heroin." I say when I was 5, my sister played me all of Motown, BB and CC, Whitney, Stevie, Smokey Robinson. I fell in love. I never felt nothing so beautiful. Felt like a hit of dope. I'm smoking in the cubicle. She played me "Stand" by Eminem. I felt the rain pouring. I saw the movie, but I listened to the film scoring. Like it was a lot of family putting me onto things. And I think the thing that clicked in terms of hip hop and production was when she played me Shaka Khan Through the Fire and then Kanye West Through the Wire. And that just, whatever my rigid classical brain had grown up on, all those rules are broken in that moment, and something just like clicked in that moment. And that was a couple years before high school. But then getting into high school, everyone wanted to rap. All my friends wanted to, it was Young Money, it was Dre, it was Wayne, it was that time. So everyone wanted to be the rapper, and I was the nerdy musical kid. So they're like, you make the beats. And I'm like, perfect, I don't want to rap.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my introduction to it, was falling in love with a lot of classic music from a very young age through my family. And then, yeah, hip hop just caught me at the right time.
And DAP The Contract also started as a duo, right?
Yes, The Contract started as a duo. One of my closest friends from Nigeria is named Shaney, and he went off to do really dope things with a platform called Native Magazine, Native Land Festival, and Native Records, a record label. But yeah, he coined the term The Contract, and I sort of put it together with DAP. Is actually an acronym, is what I started as.
And then you became a lawyer as well.
Yeah.
The Contract.
It all kind of, it wasn't intentional, but somehow it worked out. It went
manifested
together.
it right there. Over the years, you've built a really impressive catalog. I mean, project after project. What's been your biggest evolution in your music journey thus far?
I think it was actually in 2019, my last year in law school. I studied abroad in Amsterdam. So I went to law school in New York, but I studied abroad in Amsterdam, and I went to boarding school in London for middle and high school. So there was like a coming back to this sound that's in Europe. It was like a more housey, dance, electronic kind of sound. And I think I started as a classical pianist. I was born and raised in Nigeria, so I love Afrobeat and highlife music, and I fell in love with hip hop. So genre bending and just the variety in my music has always been very important to me. But I think that evolution was important because in going back to Europe and just soaking up those sounds again, the project I started in 2020 is called Powers Volume 1, 2, and 3. I made through 2020 through 2023. And that was more experimental in that direction. It was Afrobeat fused with house music and dance music and that sort of thing. And I wanted every project to be different and be a different part of my identity, so to speak. But I think that was the biggest change at that junction. And I think a lot of that music was different from a lot of stuff I made before. And it kind of showed like the breadth of my music and the different things I wanted to explore.
Hell yeah. And you said variety is extremely important for you. How do you challenge yourself to keep trying to push the needle forward?
Man, I try and listen to everything. I try not to get stuck on the playlist and the radio and the mainstream and what's being fed to us. But I try and listen to, like my wife and I always talk about this, I want to make like an Afro folk project of some kind. I want to listen to folk music, country music, rock music, just whatever I can get my hands on that moves something in me. Music's about feeling, right? Whatever makes me feel. I try to tap into that and pay attention to what it is about those sounds and the instrumentation and the arrangement, whatever it is that makes me feel. And that helps me keep pushing. But also generally just life, just new experiences, seeing new places, meeting new people, having new conversations, getting older, just life changing and different things becoming, reprioritizing your life as you mature. I think that helps me just keep expanding my horizons and trying new things.
That's beautiful. Is there like a subgenre that's like super niche that you're fucking with right now that people would be surprised to know about?
I'm back in my Afrobeat is the term that we give everything, but it's not all Afrobeat as we understand the sound to be. But I'm in this highlife bag right now. It's sort of Fela Kuti, Ebenezer Obey, these Nigerian artists who kind of were the foundation of a lot of what you hear today. I've been tapping into a lot of that. It's not super surprising, but exploring that and finding how far they took it. They weren't just one thing either, and exploring all those different sounds that they played around with and how they jumped into jazz and jumped into house music as well. At that time, it's like back in 60s, 70s, 80s, that's what I'm exploring right now, which is super fun.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned traveling and seeing the world is important for you. You were just back home in Nigeria for 2 months. How was that? What was that like?
It was amazing, man. Honestly, on the way here, my whole subway journey on the way here, I was looking at videos of my nephew the whole time, but just smiling like a baby, just like, oh my God, this is so cute. Like, it was so nice. It was partly music based, the decision to be home for that long. I was there for 2 months, and collaborating with people. I did a bunch of shows and stuff, but honestly, it was just spending time with my family because I went to boarding school when I was 10. So since then, I've only spent that 2 to 3 weeks at Christmas with my family. So it was nice to just have longer than that to actually be present and not running around to this show and this event and this wedding and this all kinds of things happen in that 3 week span at Christmas. So I was able to just decompress and actually honestly just catch up with my family properly for real in person. So it was beautiful. And even the short 3 week time I would have over the last couple of decades was always like a reset for me. It just kind of reminds, they always say, you got to know where you came from to know where you're going. It would always just remind me who I am, where I was coming from. So it was special. Yeah.
I imagine you came back very refreshed and ready
100%.
to...
All the food, everything. I had a good time back home.
Oh yeah. I read somewhere in a past interview that you used to number every beat you've ever made.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you still do?
I do still do that. That's crazy. You did your research.
The last beat I saw, you were at 906. That was years ago. What are you at right now?
Damn, how do you, hold on.
I hacked into your computer.
That's crazy. Yeah. Fair enough. 906, damn it. It's getting to the point now I don't remember what the beats sound like by number, but math was always my favorite subject growing up. So, and I've been playing the piano since I was 4, right? So really why I did it was because I saw how my skills developed from age 4 to 7 and 7 to 10. I was blessed enough to see that at a young age. So I knew how long it really took to get really good at something and how much time you have to put into it. I like that, put in the work, that thing right there. But it's I wanted to be able to, I didn't know what to name my beats. I didn't want to name them rainfall and forest and stuff, which is fine, but I wanted to know that I'm the only one that really knows what the codes are. I remember what 352nd was. I know what song that is. I know what 1149th is, which we're performing tonight, but it also just allowed me, I named them by the number and also the date I made it, where I made it, and what I made it with, what software and what keyboard I used to make it. And it just allows me to, if I really wanted to, I can go back to 906 and see where I was, what I was feeling, what I was thinking, what I was experiencing at the time, and it kind of helps me contextualize whatever I produced at that time.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice way to kind of track how this is all unfolding.
100%. I imagine it's beautiful too to see, over the years, you can actually look at that number and be like, damn, I feel like you have a super unique perspective on the industry coming from both the artist perspective, but also the business side as well. In that world, what's been your biggest lesson that you've taken away just being in the game for years now, doing your thing?
The first thing that comes to mind, honestly, is just staying open-minded. Now, I love when, Section mentioned also just the resilience. That kind of goes without saying. Like, it's a tough industry to be in. So you really have to stick it out. You really have to believe in what you're doing and stick it out, stay the course. But I think I went through different eras in my journey where I was very much like, I'm independent, F the labels, I hate everything with label, I want to do nothing with. I went through all of that. But as I learned more about the industry, I think it comes down to what's on that paper. I think staying open-minded gives you more options, but it also helps you learn more. So I stopped sort of shunning things and being one way about how I approached music and how I approached the business as well. And I think that helped me to not feel so like maybe I was a little overprotective. And I think maybe at times I felt like I missed opportunities because I was very, very protective of my music. And I still am, of course. But I think just being willing to try things, like you got to try some things and fail sometimes to learn from them to move on to better things. I think that's probably the broadest thing that has carried through all this time that I've been doing this. Is just staying open-minded and not shutting things down too quickly. Like the worst that can happen is you take an L and you learn from it and you move on, but you learn from it though and you move on. Just staying open-minded and knowing what you want and what you want from this and where you're trying to go, but also just knowing you don't know everything and being open to what might be thrown your way.
Yeah, that's a great message of inspiration right there, for real. I'm feeling motivated right now. You spent years refining and mastering your craft over, past few years. Is there an aspect of your career that you're working on improving right now?
I think I'm always trying to learn. I think it's important to stay a student of the game. I think right now, just collaborating. I spent a lot of time making beats in my room by myself, which I loved and I was very happy to do. But I think, again, music is about feeling and interact. Like it's about people. It's about how you make people feel. So I think collaborating with people more, just getting outside and not being so one way and in my comfort zone about making music. I think that's been an important thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Kind of in the same tone, you've done a lot of things. You produced, you played piano, songwriting. Is there a creative challenge or dream project like that you're trying to do that would be sick if you accomplished it and you did that?
I think I keep coming back to this Afro folk project. Like I really want to, what made me fall in love with music, aside from just the music I grew up on that I mentioned, is really the storytelling was the thing, So, and I think that's one of the purest forms of storytelling, partially because it's so stripped down. It's a lot of folk music is just the acoustic guitar and your voice and your words, So I guess stripping everything down and also not just lyrically, like centering your lyrics, but also wanting to make an instrumental project. I think that would be cool. It could be a bunch of classical music. It could be a bunch of house music. It could be beats. I don't know what form it would take or what genre it would primarily be. But I think stripping things down. I think a lot of artists tend to overthink and overproduce, and we love the harmonies and we love the chords, and there's so much that goes into it. But I think some of the greatest songs ever are 3 elements, and they're very simple. And that's harder to do than all the complicated, cool stuff. So I think that's the real challenge, is being able to say a lot with very little. And I think a folk project would give me the right sort of foundation to do that.
I know we'd all be excited to hear that. I read also that this was years ago, so I'm not sure if you've done it yet, but film scoring was something you want to dive into.
Where are you reading?
Yeah, also, wait. Isn't your sister, doesn't she do film scoring?
Yes, she does.
Man.
Shout out to Kanye.
Shout out for real.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I work for the FBI, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, now it were. Film scoring, again, that song I mentioned, she played me Stand by Eminem. I felt the rain pouring. I saw the movie, but I listened to the film scoring. Like that's always been a thing, is how, when I went to music school for a really short time. It's like 2 semesters, but my favorite class was intro to film scoring, because with first class, we watched a silent movie with no sound. And it's like all the emotion in the movie is from the music. Like you don't really get the context of what they want you to feel without the music, you know? And that made me fall in love with film scoring. That's probably still my favorite class I've ever taken to date. But yeah, I really want to, I want my albums to be visual albums. I'm a very visual artist as well. Again, storytelling. And I think the visuals is just as powerful as the sound. So yeah, I definitely want to make short films one day and be able to score all of them and that sort of thing. You know, and conduct an orchestra with all the horns and strings and everything, a big ass room. Like that's the dream for sure.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Speaking about albums, tell us about Everybody Falls in the Summer and the 5-year anniversary that came with that.
Yes, this jacket is actually, my wife actually made this painting and digitized it, and this is actually a picture of me. I'm a soccer football addict. I'm obsessed. So this is actually a picture of me like 2 years old probably playing football, and we digitized. But the whole album is this theme of just growing up and getting later into your 20s and adulting and realizing how serious things get. And that's what that album was really about. And I was 27 at the time, I think, when I dropped that album, and in the middle of law school as well. But the 5-year anniversary was such a trip because you notice how much you've grown, but then also the things that you still feel exactly the same way about. You know, not just personally, but also the things that are happening in the world. It's like, damn, we still haven't got past this thing, you know, or I personally haven't got past this thing. So it was a really interesting experience, but that's some of my favorite music I've made because it came from a very pure place of this is where I'm at in life. It's a real timestamp album. Yeah.
I know that the listeners of that album feel that way too, bro. Because when I heard Cheat Code, I was like, yo, like, I was like floating when I was listening to that for real.
I appreciate that.
Looking ahead, what's next for you? What do you have planned?
A bunch of music, really, which feels good to say because I think it's been a lot of shows recently and a lot of just exploring. Trying to figure out exactly what the next sound is going to be. I was in this experimental place for a while, and I wanted to sit in it for a while and really explore it the full length of time. And that's the Power series. But I think this next sound, and Faji, my most recent single, was like the first touch point of the kind of sound that I'm trying to build. It's more live instrumentation, getting back to that, like be really playing on the piano most of the production. A lot of horns, a lot of highlife Nigerian music. So I think I'm at this junction where I'm trying to figure out what the next world I'm going to build is. So it's a cool transition to be, and I'm trying a couple different things. I'm still playing with the experimentation and trying to pull that into this next chapter. But yeah, hopefully some new music and exploring a whole new sound that's different from what I've just been making for the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, no, we're all excited for that. And for fans following your journey, what's one message that you want to leave them with that you hope resonates with them? I feel like these answers always end up being kind of cliche, but it's the truth. It's really be true to yourself. Like know that there's one of each of us for real, you know. So no one can speak like you, sound like you, think like you. Like you have your own perspective and how you approach things, and your journey is yours. So like it took me a long time I was in college, and then I was in law school, and then I was a lawyer for a while. Excuse me. And last year I left my law firm to do music exclusively, which is the first time I'd done that, and it took a long time to get there. But I think... Yeah, we gotta clap it up for that.
But I think the most important thing is to just know that you're not crazy. All these dreams and ideas that you have, they're not way down there somewhere. They're right here. It's all in you. I'm gonna keep saying a lot of the stuff that Section 2 said, because I really identify with a lot of what you said, but it's the truth. Like it really is all in here. Like you gotta sharpen your tool, you gotta master your craft and work, you gotta put the time in, but it really is not as far as it seems. You know, it really is just a matter of putting in the time and believing in it, and really believing like this is what I'm here to do, this is what I want to do, this is what I need to do, and standing on that. Because this is not even just the music industry, but life will just pick you up and toss you all over the place. So you have to really be strong and stand on what it is that you believe in and really like ride for that. I think that's what it is. Just like believe in what it is that you believe in wholeheartedly and go for it. Don't be scared. You're not crazy. You're not, just really take the time to learn what you need to learn and put the work in and believe in it. That's
powerful. Yeah. DAP, where can the people follow you on socials?
It's at DAP The Contract, DAP The Contract on everything. Insta, Twitter, all the places. But listen to the music. DAP The Contract on all streaming platforms. Listen to the music.
Hell yeah. DAP, thank you so much. Let's give it up for him and the band.